What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. As always, we broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY Studios, and we're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And Trumark Financial Credit Union, head on over to any one of their 24 branch locations or shop online at trumark.com/PHLY to get started. A happy Friday to each and every one of you across the Delaware Valley and beyond. We've made it to the end of another work week. It is going to be a bitterly cold and potentially snow weekend here in Philly. For the Eagles-Raiders game, I've heard potential of snow, Saturday night, Sunday morning type of snow. So if you're a snow fan, like one of my buddies is, who he and I are polar opposites in terms of he gets really annoyed at the heat, and then the winter rolls around and it's my turn. If you're a snow fan, then you're going to have a fun Sunday. Are you a snow guy, Andrew?
No, I can't stand the cold.
So you and I are in lockstep. I started the show a couple weeks ago with like, oh, I hate the cold. And somebody commented on the chat and was like, then move. And I'm like, if it were only that simple.
Yeah, if only it were that
simple. I can just pick my life up and move. You know, my family, my job. I'll just move somewhere else. It's like, why don't we take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But anyway, welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. That's Andrew Frazier. We'll chat with him on the first topic in just a little bit. 12:15 today, or thereabouts, we're going to be joined by our buddy Jim Salisbury from allphly.com, from the Philly Show, from here on the PHLY Phillies Podcast as well, to check in on the conversation about Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Ranger Suárez, Andrew Painter, and we'll do it all in the next couple minutes, or the next hour, I should say. But coming up on the PHLY Phillies Podcast today, we're going to start with a conversation about JT Realmuto, because JT feels like the next domino to fall in the conversation about the Phillies offseason. Will the Phillies sign JT Realmuto is a different question than how many years is JT Realmuto going to get. We'll talk about that. Of course, Jim is going to join us at about 12:15 to break it all down. And then the Remember Me segment that we didn't get to because the Pete Alonso news broke at the end of Wednesday's show. We will pick up where we left off with that. We didn't even get the answer to the first one, so we can pretty much run it right back and give you all of those questions again. And we'll do that all here on the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Hello to you all. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier, and everybody hanging out in the chat early. Robert, RF, Chris Slem, K-Red. Appreciate you all for hanging in the chat. If you're hanging out watching and just kind of listening, appreciate you as well. And if you're listening on our audio-only platforms, either during the show or after the show, appreciate you for being here as well. So let's get into the conversation today at hand. And the question is, does JT Realmuto end up getting a 3-year deal? Because I have been on the record quite a bit this year talking about JT's possible return and also replacements should the Phillies and JT not come to an extension. We have talked about the Phillies not being in on the Harry Ford trade that sent Harry Ford to the Nationals in exchange for Jose Ferrer. We've talked about the potential of a trade for players like Ivan Herrera and Ryan Jeffers, and the potential of even going for the big swing of Adley Rutschman. We've talked about the potential of them signing the type of player like a Victor Caratini to a 1-year deal if they don't end up signing JT Realmuto. And we have also talked about the fact that despite JT having one of his worst offensive seasons in 2025, featuring Phillies 10-year lows in home runs in non-COVID years with 12, full season, meaning non-injury, non-COVID years, RBI 52, walks just 35, and no matter what blanket, Phillies 10-year lows in slugging, 384, OPS 700, and OPS plus 91. Despite all of those things being 2025 numerical stats and real things that we can tangibly take away from the 2025 season, I have continued to come back to he is still likely the best catching option available, because the offense, while it was trending in a downward direction, was serviceable enough. And the defensive work, especially considering pop time and caught stealing runners, has been excellent throughout his tenure as a member of the Phillies. His pop time remains elite. His caught stealing work remains elite. And then the intangible stuff, which is the work with the pitching staff, the work with Caleb Cotham, the video stuff that they do before games, getting game plans ready. I have been critical of JT's pitch sequencing at times throughout his tenure as a member of the Phillies, but there's no question about it that the pitchers are better with JT than they are with anybody else, with Marchand, with Stubbs, and anybody else that the Phillies have used in the 6-year window of JT Realmuto's career. In fact, He's led the league in pop time in second base to second base 4 of the last 5 years of qualified catchers. His 17 caught stealing at second base last year was good for 5th across Major League Baseball. Since 2021, he has the most caught stealing above average number, a 28 on throws to second base. Only Patrick Bailey is even close. He's the only other catcher in the 20s. Everybody else is in the teens. JT's also thrown out 74 base runners at second base since 2021. That's the most in baseball. Cal Raleigh is second. He's at 73. No other catcher in baseball has more than 63 over that time. And his 31% caught stealing rate at second base is the 4th best in Major League Baseball among catchers who have at least 100 throws down to second base. Now, the caveat to that one is all 3 catchers ahead of him have thrown at least 112 fewer throws down to second base in that time. So the reality is, if you put everything in a vacuum and spit out the players that are available in free agency and in the trade market, I have long maintained that a return with JT Realmuto is the most logical place to start because of the dearth of talent at the catcher position, both in the trade market for the most part and in free agency almost in totality. More likely than not, if you are pivoting away from JT, you're getting one of 2 different types of catchers. You're either getting a good defender who can't hit. Think about guys like Patrick Bailey, Luis Torrens type of catchers who was with the Mets over the last couple of years, or you're getting a good catcher, or a good hitter, who can't catch. Think about guys like Keibert Ruiz, Ivan Herrera type of players who eventually may end up needing to move to a first base or a DH or whatever the case may be. So with all of that, if you put that into a vacuum and you said, spit me out the player that's most readily available and gives you the most productivity at the catcher position for next season, the answer is probably JT Realmuto. The question, though, is would I want to offer JT a 3rd year? Now, Jim talked about it on Foul Territory. We will talk to him about it coming up at about 12:15. The question was, is there an offer in place? And Jim says, yeah, he thinks there is. He thinks it's a 2-year deal. And so does JT and his camp, or do JT and his camp want to hold out for a 3rd year? Now, is the 3rd year because it likely stems from it being the final year, the final multi-year contract of JT Realmuto's career? Very possible. Does it stem from the fact that there is a consideration about 2027 and not knowing the future of that season? Also very possible. But if you put all of these things together, the likeliest outcome for me still remains JT Realmuto re-signing to be the Phillies catcher in 2026. But would I offer him a 3-year deal? I'm finding it really difficult to answer that question with a yes. I love what JT has done for this team. There was a time period over the course of his career for a multitude of years where JT Realmuto was definitively the best catcher in baseball. There is still a chance that JT might be one of the better defensive catchers in baseball, especially when it comes to caught stealing and throwing runners out at second base. Is his framing elite? Maybe not. Is his blocking elite? Started to trend in the wrong direction. But I do think that there is merit to say over the tenure of JT's time with the Phillies, it's very easy to point out that at one point he was the best catcher in baseball. But do I want to give a 3rd year? Not really. I know everything we just laid out makes it really hard to simply walk away and find a replacement. And I also know that the market is meager for said replacement that you're going to find. But a 3rd year to me would be really concerning with the offensive metrics trending in the wrong direction. What type of hitter does JT look like in 2028? I don't know the answer to that question. I know that all of those career lows or Phillies lows that I have given you tend to tell me that next year and in 2027, he's probably going to continue to trend in the downward direction from offensive metrics. But if you want to keep JT, you're not getting him on a 1-year deal or a 1 year with a team option. You're not even getting him on a 1 year with a player option. The minimum you're getting JT for is a 2-year deal. But I don't know if I want to extend to that 3rd year. I just don't feel comfortable knowing what I know about the availability of players at that catching position, pivoting away from him if it's less than 3 years. So the number that I keep coming back to is about $15 million per season. 2 for 30 feels really doable. 3 for 45 feels a lot more extensive. And in fact, I would almost be willing to reverse the Dave Dombrowski higher years, lower money thing and go lower years, higher money if that were to be a changing factor. If I could get him up to 2 for 34 or 2 for 36, I would probably even consider that, because I think that while that's a large number at $16, $17, $18 million a season, I would rather go for more AAV over a 2-year stretch than be saddled with a $15 million third year in 2028 when he's almost 38 years old, and I have absolutely no idea what type of catcher he is going to be. So if I had my druthers, I would go 2 years and I would say, listen, we'll give you more money per season, but we're not giving you the third year. But the reality is, I would imagine JT's camp is looking to get that third year. I would imagine that a team may even overstep and offer that third year. So if the third year is the difference between JT being here and not, I'm not so sure the Phillies have a choice. However, if I were calling the shots, I would do everything within my power to push for a 2-year deal. That would be my concern, is that third year. I think 3 years is going to be what it takes. Would I be willing to do it? Not super excited about it. I want to ask our second member of today's show about this before we get to Jim as well. You heard him a little bit early in the show. It's our producer, our co-host. He's doing a million different things today. It's our buddy, Andrew Frazier.
Yo, yo.
Andrew, first and foremost, a happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you as well, Tyler.
And I want to ask you what I just kind of laid out.
Yeah.
Years, 2 or 3. 2, I'm down with 100%.
Yeah.
3, I drag my feet a little bit.
Sure.
I know Dave Dombrowski has been an AAV guy that likes to keep AAV down by giving out more years. In this instance, I would role reverse that, and I would go more money for less years. What are your thoughts on JT's potential of getting 3 years, and how do you feel about that situation potentially unfolding?
Totally with you on the 2 years. I think that's a great deal for him to come back. You know, he is definitely he's a protection for a lot of our pitchers. They feel comfortable throwing to him. And look, he's like, obviously he's not what he was when he first came here, but he's a serviceable guy, even behind the plate when it comes to the offense. And yeah, you know, I think 2 years is great. I've been reading the chat. I've been listening to you, and I think that third year really is because of a few different variables. One is, you know, that there is a potential lockout.
Sure.
And I think he just wants to have that, make sure he gets that guaranteed money. The other thing is, like what you said, this could be his last multi-year contract of his career. He probably wants to try to get something that he can, you know, final that he can get. And another thing I saw in chat that I thought was actually a great thing, but it's something that's not really an option, is it would be great to take him on the third-year deal if the DH spot was open. Because then you knew at that third year, maybe he could transition from being your catcher to your DH. But being that the case, it's not really, you know, something that you can really feasibly do for that, because you have Schwarber on that 5-year contract now. So would I do the deal? It's really hard to say no, just because you look around the league and what other catchers are really out there. You know, that are
the availability is terrible.
Up to his standard.
Unless they go
quality.
and make a trade that we aren't assuming, right?
Yeah.
Like, unless they go and acquire a catcher, right? We've talked all offseason about Adley Rutschman, and I have maintained I don't think Baltimore is going to move Rutschman. I just feels that they are going to continue to move on with him and Basayo together. If Rutschman becomes available, sure, you shoot for the stars, no question about it, even as he has gone in the wrong direction. But I do think that of the available catchers, free agents, a mess. There's only 1 or 2 guys I would even really be interested in. And then the second part of it is, like, are you getting a player who does one or the other in terms of offense, defense, you know, combination? My concern with the DH part that you brought up, even if Kyle Schwarber wasn't here and they did need somebody to fill that DH role, the diminishing value for me with JT is the offense.
Yeah.
It's not the behind the plate stuff. Even though I don't think he's been as good. Again, I brought up blocking and framing and stuff like that. His pitch sequencing has at times been something I've questioned. I know for a fact the guys love throwing to him. I know for a fact he's a good battery mate for most of these starting pitchers. And I know for a fact that he still is one of the elite base stealer eliminators, basically, in baseball. The pop time is unbelievable. And so I think that I really get held up on what does the offense look like in 2027 and 2028. I don't even know, if I'm being quite honest, I don't even know what it looks like in 26, but I'm willing to roll the dice on 26 and 27. 28 and almost 38 years old. I mean, if he's hitting like 212, that's where I would be like, this is a mistake to have gone for the third year.
Yeah.
That's where really my concern kind of comes into play, is really the offensive portion of this conversation. Because I would expect at least another solid year behind the dish, defensively and pop time related.
Definitely. It's interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they do, or if they do have, this secret trade in place that no one knows about.
Right. Well, and then I think Andrew brings it up, like, what's a realistic trade for the Phillies to improve the team? And I think if you're thinking about catcher, I don't know at this point, because we've brought up Rutschman. I don't think he gets moved. We brought up Jeffers. The Twins have said they're not trading any more of they've said, they use the word stars. I don't know if I consider Jeffers a star, but I think that they were referring to Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton mostly. I don't think they're going to move Jeffers if they're talking about keeping the rest of the pro-level talent, the MLB-level talent intact. So you're thinking Rutschman's off the board, Jeffers might be off the board. Seems like the Cardinals want to keep Herrera, and again, I don't know how much defensive value there is there. Like, that's concerning in and of itself. To answer the question at the catcher position specifically,
it's tough.
I don't know. Harry Ford was the one that a lot of people pointed to.
Yeah.
And, that's why I said when the Phillies, and I'm not going to say the Phillies were tied to Harry Ford. I really don't know the answer to that question. But when the Phillies did not make a move for Harry Ford, and you see that it only cost the Nationals Jose Ferrer, that's why I immediately said the Phillies believe they're bringing JT back.
Yeah.
That's where I think the Phillies are almost going to get suckered into a third year because they think that JT should be here.
Yeah.
All right, let's pause on the other side. We'll break it down a little bit further with Jim Salisbury. I caught up with Jim earlier this morning to chat with him about Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Andrew Painter, the future of this organization, what a lockout could look like if 2027 does get into the lockout phase. We'll do it all next. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge, and we'll be right back after this. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. You find out why 90 million users worldwide have teamed up with Bet365 because they are the live in-game pioneers of live in-game betting. Of course, 780,000 different live streamed events across 78 different sporting platforms each and every year. And how about this? Early payout access on NHL games. If you have a straight bet or a parlay that gets marked as a winner, if your team goes up by 3 goals at any point, you don't have to sweat out a furious third period comeback. You're just going to end up winning your bet. You can do that across multiple different sporting platforms. And new users right now, use the promo code at the bottom of the screen, PHLY365. Deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and you'll get $200 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. You can use that bonus money on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. You find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you're looking for a Jeep or a new Ram truck, there's only one place that you need to know. It's the dealership in South Jersey that has been the market leader since 1967. That's our friends over at Cherry Hill Jeep. And at Cherry Hill Jeep and CherryHillJeep.com, they've got you covered with the best selections, but more importantly, they've got you covered with the best prices. Slide on into a 2025 Jeep Wrangler this month for as low as $289 a month. Every Wrangler delivers incredible drivetrains, innovative engineering, and quality components that make you know why they are a legendary, iconic heritage type of car. Lease payments with 0 down payments are available and financing options for all credit on over 350 vehicles in stock. Stop in today, tell them that we here at PHLY sent you, and you'll get $1,000 off on any new car and an additional $2,000 in trade-in value. I know people buy Jeeps and Ram trucks elsewhere. I just don't know why. So drive home in your new Jeep or Ram truck today, just minutes from all bridges, or available 24/7 online at CherryHillJeep.com. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli here, and now joining us on the Xfinity Mobile call-in line, it's our buddy Jim Salisbury, fresh off the winter meetings. You've been a busy guy this week, Jim. I've seen you on Foul Territory. You've got your pod. You're doing writing. You've had yourself a pretty busy week. How's everything going?
Everything's great. It's that time of the year. Winter meetings, the hot stove, as they call it, is warming up locally, nationally, and in Philadelphia, kind of a combination. They bring back Kyle Schwarber, and that sort of, I think, unlocks a few things industry-wide. You saw Pete Alonso come off the board right after that. So Schwarber really kind of a pivot player in this postseason. And here we are on December 12th, and I think the action is just going to keep ramping up here.
So let's start with Schwarber. I think that's a really good place to start today. To me, it felt like it was inevitable, not just the early return, because that was seemingly the report was he was going to be one of the first players off the board, but the return in general. It felt like this was a match where there was mutual interest. It felt like it was really good play for both parties. So I want to ask you kind of a twofold question. One, are you as kind of expecting this, that he was going to return as most? And then the second question, your thoughts as a whole on the 5 years and $150 million.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he's back, Tyler. I mean, I thought he was, even last summer, there was no way that this relationship was not going to be extended. When you look at the impact he's had on the team and their offensive production over his 4 years in Philadelphia, I mean, you could really say it's one of the best contracts, free agent contracts they've ever signed, right up there with Zach Wheeler's first initial contract when he came over from the Mets. 4 years, $79 million. You've gotten like 165 home runs. But the big thing is, team-wise, they hadn't been to the postseason in 10 years before he was here. They've been to the postseason 4 years in a row, a World Series. Yeah, some disappointing finishes in October, no question. But I don't, I think you need that production. I know there's concerns about the age, but I think that bat speed can hold up throughout the life of the contract. I think the guy's a winning player. I mean, he's coming off a 56 home run season, 132 RBIs, both tops in the National League. He, in my mind, is still an improving hitter. I mean, this guy was non-tender a few years ago and made himself a better hitter. And you can kind of, the proof of the pudding is right there in his performance against left-handed hitters. And his batting average has climbed, and as his batting average climbs, the more times he squares it up, he has a good chance of going over the wall. So I fully expected this. He wanted to be here. Ownership wanted him. Ownership listens to its fans. The fans wanted him. His teammates wanted him, and they got it done. I think over the life of this contract, 5 years, he could end up. He needs a World Series. They need to. He won one with Chicago. He wants to win one here. Everybody wants one here. That's the standard. Anything short of that is nobody's going to be happy with. But he can chase that 500 home run club. He's like 160 away. I think he can do it. Chance he could go into the Hall of Fame as a Philly. Be something interesting to follow over these next 5 years. Harper going to the Philly Hall of Fame as a Philly. That's a neat little subplot. As for the 5 years, yeah, at that age, they'd prefer to do it at 4 years. Who wouldn't, right? But we've seen this game. I've seen it for a long time. You give the extra year to get a guy off the market. In this case, Pittsburgh Pirates, jacked up the price on the Phillies. I don't think he was going to go there, but hey, part of the negotiation. Cincinnati Reds were in it, and the Baltimore Orioles were in it with the exact same offer, according to Ken Rosenthal, 5 years, 150. But to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. So the Orioles were going to have to knock out the Phillies with a better offer, and I think probably significantly better because I think his heart was here, and ultimately. It worked out that way. He had the obligation to himself and his family to, get the information that was out there on the market and hear from other teams. But in the end, I think this is where he wanted to be. He's had great years here. Don't underestimate Kevin Long, the hitting coach, as all part of this. He's very comfortable with him. There's a great chemistry there. He's improved a lot under Kevin Long. I think that was part of Kyle's thinking. I'm sure he could have went elsewhere and thrived, but he likes that hitting coach, likes what they do together. It's an important relationship to him. So I think that was part of it. And I think the unfinished business is part of it. They really want to win a World Series here. So I am not one bit surprised he's back, and I think it's a good thing for the Phillies.
Okay, so let's pivot to the next free agent. The one that you talked with the guys on Foul Territory about was JT Realmuto. And I think the question for JT, much like the fifth year for Kyle Schwarber, is a year's question. Now, you have said that you think that it might be a 2-year deal is currently on the table. Does it take a third year to kind of get across the finish line? So my question to you is, it's something that we really started today's show with. Are you comfortable with a third year for a soon-to-be 35-year-old everyday starting catcher? And is that kind of the sticking point if they do want to re-sign JT, is that third year?
Yeah, would I be comfortable with it? To get him back, I guess you'd have to be, because I think he's that important. I think he's, you got to win one here in the next couple of years before this nucleus is like overripe. So I think he's very important to the pitching staff, which is the strength of the team. And, the pitchers love working with him. They want him back. You look at Salvador Perez, got a 2-year deal at $25 million. I think that's a pretty reasonable comp for the Phillies. I mean, the guy drives in 100 runs a year. Hit 30 home runs, I think, last year. But he doesn't catch all the time. So JT might, be able to use that on, in pushing for a 3-year deal. I've said all along that I thought it would take a 3-year deal to get him off the market. We'll see. The Phillies do have an offer out there. I believe it's for 2 years, but depending on, they might be confident there's not a lot of play on him. I mean, Texas was thought to have some interest. They're not going to be a player for him, it appears. It's hard to hear. You haven't heard a ton of buzz on him, so maybe the Phillies feel comfortable in keeping it at 2. Maybe they go to 3 to get him off the market. That would not surprise me. And would I be comfortable with it? I'd rather do it 2, but to get him back, given his importance on this team, I would probably go to the 3rd year and get it done. So how about you?
Yeah, the 3rd year really is a sticking point for me, because I think I'm comfortable with, and I know Dave Dombrowski has kind of had a feel of more years to keep the AAV down, and I almost in this particular situation would reverse that and feel more comfortable with a higher annual yield. And I know that goes against the luxury tax thing, but the 2 for 30, 2 for 32 range feels really good for me. If I get to 3 for 45, that's kind of where I'm starting to question, because the pop time is there. The caught stealing numbers are there. As you mentioned, the intangibles with the pitching staff, definitively there. The offensive productivity, while it's heading maybe in the down direction, I don't know how many catchers in baseball across the league are two-way players. I think about the scarcity of offensive catchers or guys that can hit and also be good defenders. Earlier in the show, I mentioned a guy like Keibert Ruiz from the Nationals. Excellent hitter, not a very good defender. Patrick Bailey from the Giants, excellent defender, not a very good hitter. It's rare to find guys who can do both, and I do think JT is still, even maybe at a diminished value, still one of those guys. And so the 2 feels great. The 3, I start to have some concerns.
Yeah, the 2, I like the way you said that. The 2 feels great. You have concerns on 3, but to me, that 3rd year ain't going to kill you. It ain't going to kill your franchise. It's not $30 million. It's not $25 million. It's probably like 15 at the ceiling. So I don't think it's going to kill you. But we'll see where the market shapes up. It sounds like they got a pretty good handle on it, because there seem to be, they seem to be comfortable with that 2-year offer. Whether or not they push it, like I said, we're going to find out. But I think JT wants to be here, and I know they want him. So I would be surprised if they don't figure this thing out.
So I'm curious, because you've brought it up now with Kyle Schwarber and with JT Realmuto, the familiarity as you get older into your career. Kyle Schwarber 33, JT Realmuto about to be 35. The familiarity of the city that you currently play most likely where your family resides, and you've put some roots, especially for a guy like Schwarber, who does a lot of great community work and is really invested in the city of Philadelphia. Does that really hold a ton of water for these veteran free agents as their careers are kind of heading towards the back nine of their career? That familiarity, does that really hold as much water as we like to believe it does?
I think it's a part of the puzzle, a part of the calculus. But I think they want to get paid, and Schwarber got paid. At this stage of their career, probably the last contract, definitely the last significant contract for each guy. There is that obligation to the next generation to keep the needle moving upward on the salaries. And a big factor in it for both guys is they want to win. So you're going to get paid in Philly. It's a big market. It's a team that's still very much on the winning curve, has a chance. They're going to play in October next year. There's really no doubt in my mind. And then it comes down to don't kick the ball around the field, run the bases better, get better bullpen work, play good, hit, don't play tight. So they want to win. That's here. They want to get paid handsomely. That's here. And yeah, there is comfort. Both of them have been here for a number of years. JT, 6 years, I think. Kyle, 4 years. The Phillies treat the players really well. It's a good place to play. Ownership treats the players really well. Look at the fan support they get. I mean, it's electrifying when you walk out of that dugout and you have, 38,000 is like your bottom number, right? That's your floor.
That's a Tuesday night in June.
There you go. So, you're playing in front of 44,000. It's electric. You got a chance to win. There's a lot of pluses here for these guys. And I think familiarity is definitely one of them. In JT's case, he owns a residence in Clearwater, and he goes there like after Christmas every year and begins working out at their facility there. So I think that familiarity means a little something, but I think he also, wants wants to be compensated where he thinks he should be. So like I said, I just think, Dave Dombrowski comes out of the gate in October saying Schwarber's a priority, Realmuto's a priority. Dave Dombrowski at the winter meetings on Monday says he's sensing optimism. He feels optimism on both guys. I don't know. Dave plays it close to the vest. And when he says he senses optimism or he feels optimistic, I just feel like something's there. So you get both of those guys back, and all the critics are going to be like, okay, they're running it back. But these guys are serious contributors. They're serious contributors that I think you need, because 26 is really important. 27 is really important. Got to win here in the short term because this nucleus is really getting older. There are ways you can change the mix a little bit on the edges. And I think they're, attempting to do that as well. So, it's funny. You look up the road, we're going to see the Mets are doing like a complete makeover. They are not running it back. There's two schools of thought.
So the one question I do have for you is looking at the contracts that are being handed out, whether it is short-term deals, the 5 or even 7-year deals in case of Dylan Cease, is 2027 on the back of teams' mind with the potential of the end of the CBA, and who knows what happens with, I think a lot of people have kind of in jest said, well, there's not going to be baseball in 2027. And I know that's, a little bit extreme, but I do think there is realism to there may be a CBA negotiation problem. And so are teams and players looking at that and saying, kind of factoring that into the conversation of the contracts that are being signed?
I haven't really sensed it. I didn't sense it with the Kyle Schwarber negotiation. I mean, that's the highest AAV ever for a DH. You didn't sense it with Pete Alonso. Gets a really big deal from Baltimore. As you mentioned, Dylan Cease got a 7-year deal from Toronto. That's a team that's going for it. I don't sense that the CBA and any projected labor issues has been an impediment. I just don't. I just think the evidence is there with the deals these guys are signing. And look at the guys that opted out. Bregman opted out. I do. I just think I want to believe both sides are smart enough not to kill the golden goose. I mean, we just had this great World Series. We've had some great seasons. Revenues are up. Everybody's kind of winning here. Um, and, I don't even really see what I see is I think, yeah, there'll be a lockout. This is like my guess. There'll be a lockout just because that's a negotiating strategy once the CBA ends, and it'll be much like it was 5 years ago, kind of a quiet winter, and then settle, and everybody scrambles to find where they're going to play, much like in 2022. I just think they're smarter than to start losing games, the players and the owners, and this battle, in my mind, is not as much players versus owners as it is owners versus owners, small market owners against the big market owners. So they need to fix that and figure that out. And then there's the possibility of expansion down the road, which is going to make the owners a lot of money. So maybe that is the solve that makes the smaller market owners feel whole, or makes all owners feel whole after COVID losses, those big expansion fees. But to answer your original question, I haven't sensed it having any impact on negotiations, and I'm hopeful that it won't be a stoppage. That it'll be much like 22 and get back on the field, because a lot of people are making a lot of money, and fix the revenue sharing, do more of it. I just don't see the players ever going for a cap. But we'll see what happens.
So last one for you, Jim, and very much appreciate your time as always. You brought up the other day the expectation of Andrew Painter in 2026, and I think I've sensed some fans that are there's a very extreme with fans. It's either, why is this guy not pitching in the major leagues yet when we see some other young talent pitching in the major leagues like Burns and Mizorowski and, your Savage in the World Series? And then there's the other side of the fan base that says he's 21, he's recovering from Tommy John still, command is the last thing to kind of come back. So you kind of brought up that you do have an expectation of Andrew Painter in 2026. For those that are in the sky is falling mode with the Phillies' biggest prospect in, I don't know, half a decade perhaps, what is your sense of his timeline and then how he factors into 2026?
Well, the sky is certainly not falling. He's come, like you said, he's an elite talent, an elite prospect. Coming back from major elbow surgery, did not progress as fast in 2025 performance-wise as people thought he would. Health-wise, he did, and that's a great sign. So health has to come first. But I think he's still fine-tuning things post Tommy John surgery. The control was an issue at AAA. The command was an issue. And that can take a little more time to come. But gosh, the raw ingredients are really good. He's very young. The sky is not falling. These are normal. Nobody moves in a straight line in development. And then when you throw in that variable of Tommy John surgery, that can be a big factor as well. So I expect to see him sometime in 26, maybe early, depending on how he looks in spring training, depending on how they gauge his readiness. But not only do I expect to see him sometime in 26, they need to see him in 2026. Because, the top of the rotation, Christopher Sanchez, second in the Cy Young. Zach Wheeler, we all think he's going to bounce back and still be really good. Aaron Nola's got great experience. He needs to pitch better, no question, and there's a concern. High mileage on that arm. They have Luzardo, who, career high in innings, a lot to feel good about. Pitching, going to be a free agent, that free agent year, that walk year can be a great motivator. So there's an awful lot to like about that rotation. The talent, the pedigree, the track records, but not a lot of depth. You have Taijuan Walker, not a lot of depth. they really need Andrew Painter to come up here and carry some of the load. I'm not saying he has to be the top, the marquee guy. He needs to, but at some point this season, he needs to go out there and take a regular turn. They're going to monitor his innings. Might not be the whole season, but he needs to go out there and pitch in the major leagues and help this team and build a workload and gain experience. And learn from a guy like Zach Wheeler, learn from a guy like JT Realmuto. So, and they also, on top of it all, we mentioned this kind of earlier, they need to start getting younger. The age of this unit is still a big concern. They won 96 games last year. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden fall off a cliff, but they're not moving the right way age-wise. They need to get younger. So you need a Painter to get here and show you that he's moving in the right direction. You need Crawford to get here and maybe hold down left field as early as opening day. And then you need to know that Aiden Miller is making really good strides at AAA and is, knocking on the door maybe by the end of the season, if not earlier. So I'm not worried one bit about Andrew Painter. I'm not worried one bit.
So I said last one. I apologize. I do have one more for you because the Rule 5 draft was this week. The Phillies took Zach McCambley with the 29th overall pick. They've not had a player stick on the roster from the Rule 5 since Tyler Goodell in 2016. So we're talking almost a decade now. Do you have any feel or a sense early on that this kid could potentially make the opening day roster?
Actually, I think it's a good thing they haven't had a lot of guys stick because that shows you got more depth in your organization. You're not grasping at guys that other teams didn't protect. I mean, there are some gems in there over the years. I mean, Santana, Victorino, Hollins, Roberto Clemente. But yeah, in my sense, the bullpen is an area where you have like 4 or 5 established guys, maybe 5 established guys, and they need to build that bullpen out. So yeah, I think if he comes in and pitches well, yeah, he could be a guy that could stick in that 7th or 8th bullpen spot. Apparently, he's got a real good out pitch in that slider, and pitching coaches love guys who can throw a slider or kind of cut it. They can do a lot with it. So I'm sure the Phillies pitching staff is eager to work with him. And the kid they made the trade with, was it Cunell? No.
With Tampa.
Yeah, I wrote his name down. Curette. I'm sorry.
Yes. I think at one point maybe their number 3 or 4 prospect.
Yeah, he's got a really big arm with strikeout stuff, had some injuries, and they just ran out of roster spots, room to protect him, and so that made him available. And gosh, I mean, I think back to Christopher Sanchez, who was also a Tampa Bay Ray, and they ran out of spots because they had a lot of good young pitching depth they wanted to protect. And all of a sudden, the Phillies pull off a trade for him. He enters their player development process, and look what he's become. So who knows? I think both of those guys have the Rule 5 pick in that to trade with Tampa are going to get a good long look. And on this team, have a chance to stick if they perform well, because this is a team, like I said, they go 4 or 5 deep, but they're going to be looking for spots 6, 7, and 8, and then 9 and 10 because you need depth, right? At AAA or somewhere else. The guy they get from Tampa Bay has an option where the Rule 5 pick would have to stick. But yeah, I think they both have a chance because, like I said, they need some depth in that bullpen, and they need some starting depth as well in that rotation. And that Andrew Painter is much more than depth, believe me. But that's one of the reasons I think you could. It's one of the reasons I think if somebody came to them and said, "We want Taijuan Walker, and we'll take pretty much all of his salary." I mean, you got to do it, right? But
sure.
I just wouldn't at this point. I'd be protective of Taijuan Walker because unless somebody's going to take all that money, because you need some depth in that rotation. That's a bit of a concern for me. Rotation depth, bullpen depth. The winter's not over. They got to keep adding and keep constructing this team. But the construction of the team doesn't stop really, in my mind, until the trade deadline. I mean, look at what they did to that bullpen at the trade deadline this year. So a lot of focus, winter meetings, but it continues way beyond that. I mean, I'm not even sure on December 12th last year that maybe it was just starting, but Luzardo really didn't pop on their radar till maybe closer to the end of December. So you never know what might pop up.
Jim, can't thank you enough for your time. You can check out all of Jim's work, of course, at allphly.com here on the PHLY Phillies Show. The Phillies Show podcast, which is an excellent show, by the way, Jim. I really enjoy you and Ruben and Todd together. I think you guys have a really nice dynamic, so you can check out that pod as well. But Jim Salisbury, thank you so much for some time, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you plenty more as the winter meetings, the hot stove continues to heat up. But a happy holidays in case we don't chat to you before the holiday season. And as always, thanks so much for being a part of the PHLY Phillies Show.
Thank you, Tyler. Happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.
Jim, you're the best. Thanks so much. Coming up on the other side, we're going to continue on the JT Realmuto conversation, the conversation about the Phillies offseason, and we'll finish today's episode with our weekly Remember Me that we did not get to on Wednesday afternoon. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We'll be right back after this. What's up, parents? Listen, the holidays are in full swing, and there's never a better time to give your kids a little bit understanding of what money means. And with the Greenlight app from TrueMark Financial Credit Union, you can do just that. Your kids are going to get a debit card, so they're going to feel like they have a little bit of financial freedom while you stay in the driver's seat and have the ability to control everything. It helps your kids learn how to spend wisely, track their savings, and save for what matters, all while you call the shots. And the best part is, TrueMark Financial Credit Union members right now get a free custom card with their free Greenlight subscription, a $79.99 value. And if you're not a member yet, that's no problem. You can log in at any one of the 24 branch locations or truemark.com/Greenlight to get started. And with Greenlight, you'll get an incredible ability to have real-time spending alerts, easy controls, and an instant on-off switch. Plus, kids can earn on their savings and manage their chores and allowance right there on the app. Again, truemark.com/Greenlight for all of the details to get started today. TrueMark Financial Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services. We know now we are in the coldest months of the year, and I don't think that weather is going to change anytime soon. So if you have these home projects that are piling up and you need to get the big ones checked off your list, especially if your house is not staying as warm as you hope it would, that's where Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services come into play. They bring the trusted local pros that come right to your door to get your home ready and stay ready for these cold months. Whether it's a heating tune-up or plumbing fixes, generators, or something big like emergency repairs, their experts handle it all. There's no guesswork. There's no stress. It's just local pros who get the job done right, and you know you're going to have satisfaction guaranteed. So you know they're the hardware folks at the store. Now they're going to bring that feel, that courtesy, and that great work right to your front door. So find the help you need on your next home project at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started today. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli here, Andrew Frazier with us as well. You haven't had a chance to say hello to everybody in the chat, but first want to say a big thank you to our buddy Jim Salisbury for joining us for a pretty extensive conversation about what's going on with the Phillies and the winter meetings and the offseason and things like that. A couple news and notes that we haven't had a chance to talk about. Robert Suárez is heading to the Atlanta Braves on a 3-year, $45 million deal. I think that's a really good signing for the Braves. I'm not going to lie to you. I think they have now what has become a really good 1-2 punch at the back end of their bullpen between Suárez and Raisel Iglesias. I think that is a really good move for them. Both of those guys have closer experience. I would imagine Iglesias probably works as the closer. But I do think that you could see Suárez get some closer work when Iglesias isn't available, and when he is, he'll be the setup guy. It's going to be really tough to come from behind against the Braves when they're down to their final 6 outs with those two guys in the back end of the bullpen. Maikel Garcia is reportedly in extension talks with the Kansas City Royals on a 5-year contract extension. I think that's a good move for them as well. And then just some smaller moves. Gregory Soto signed a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Pirates for $7 million. So the lefty continues to work his way throughout Major League Baseball. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat that I have not a chance to say hello to yet. K-Red, Ray Schumacher, Chris Slem, Robert, Lenny Franco. Who else do we have here in the chat that I've not had a chance to say hello to just yet? It's been a pretty active chat so far. RF. Everybody who's been here, whether you were here earlier in the show or right now, I really do appreciate it. To answer your question, Robert, I assume you're talking about Tatsuya Imai. I have no inside information. I have no understanding of what he's thinking at the current moment. But I did say, was it Wednesday, Andrew? It was either Wednesday or Monday.
Yes,
that I just
Wednesday.
have like this weird gut feeling that the Phillies are going to be in on either Okamoto or Tatsuya Imai. And that's just like my gut reaction. And I don't know if that happens or not. The Phillies obviously have made some inroads in the Japanese market, but they are still way behind a whole bunch of different teams. It would be an exceptional signing if they were to get either of those guys, whether it's Okamoto to play third or Tatsuya Imai to be, in the starting rotation. I think it would be an exceptional deal either way. Do I think either of those guys sign? I don't, but I have had this just like gut feeling that like the Phillies are going to be in the mix for a majority of that courting process. And then the other news of note, Murakami is down to 10 days left in his posting window to sign in free agency. So the news of a Murakami deal is imminent in the next week and a half because that's how long he has left before he ends up having to figure out what's next for him. But I think that will be the next news to break, nationally in the big scale. Like I don't think a guy like Framber or Kyle Tucker or Bellinger are going to sign in the next few days, but I do think that obviously a move is going to have to be made for Murakami in the next 10 days because that's how long he's down. He's on day 35 of his 45-day posting window. So I would expect that move to happen sometime in the next few days. All right, let's break. On the other side, we are going to get into our Remember Me segment that we have not had a chance to do on Wednesday because of the breaking Pete Alonso news. We will get to that, and we'll wrap up today's show, and we'll head you into the weekend here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios, and we'll be right back after this. All right, so you found that person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Now the question is, what's the ring look like? And I know there's a lot of questions that surround that purchase. What are the 5 C's? How much can I spend? And what does my dollar go towards now in this economy that my partner is going to find a ring that they truly love? And if you have all those questions like I did, head on over to Bucci Jewelry and Design. That's where our friends Joe and Michelle are going to greet you like family, not like a customer. They're going to treat you like one of one. From the moment that you walk in the front door, they're going to make sure that you have all of your questions answered. There's no pushy sales vibes. There's no pressure. It's just people who do what they love and love what they do. And with over 1,000 5-star reviews, 30 years in the business, and of course, voted Philly's #1 jeweler year after year, they're the right people to answer all of those questions. They're going to walk you through the design and make you something custom right there in the house. And the end result is something that you're going to be proud of and your special someone is going to love. So check them out today at BucciJewelers.com and tell them that we here, the guys at PHLY, sent you. If you've been a long-time listener of PHLY here, you know that we've had some mice issues in our building. And the way to get rid of the mice safely, securely, and in a quick manner, that's our friends over at Evans Pest Control. It's not just some giant national chain. They are a family-owned, community-focused pest control right here in the Philadelphia area, and they have been earning the trust of their community for years. They use incredible state-of-the-art equipment. It's safe and effective treatment options, and their techs are always going through training, so you know that they are equipped to handling anything that life throws your way, whether it's rodents, insects, termites, and even bed bugs. And they offer priority services and consultations, which is a huge problem if you have pets. Listen, we know sometimes pests just show up at your door. They don't knock, they just come on in. And with our friends over at Evans Pest Control, you're going to be able to know that you have the confidence in a local community-based company that is going to do the work for you. Visit evanspestcontrolmgmt.com to schedule your free consultation. That's evanspestcontrolmgmt.com. To the PHLY Phillies podcast, Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier, everybody hanging out in the chat. Thanks so much for being a part of today's show. Let's get into our Remember Me segment that we did not get to on Wednesday. We gave you the first clue or the first player, so we'll quickly go through that. The right answer was not found, so we'll quickly go through number 1. We do still have 2 more to go. To refresh your memory, the category today is players that have signed at least 5-year deals in the offseason in honor of Kyle Schwarber's 5-year deal earlier this week. So again, player number 1, you did discern that it was a catcher based on the the silhouette there. But I'll remind you, 14-year career, played for 4 different teams over that 14-year career, was a 4-time All-Star, was the 2007 National League Silver Slugger and Gold Glove winner at his position. And this player signed a 5-year deal in 2015 with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Andrew, you guys were not quite there.
I had some time to think.
And you've had some time to think
and
on
I
this.
think I might know who it is.
All right, so we could do this one pretty quickly because we did give you, you've had 48 hours to think about this.
Yeah. Do you want me to say?
Go ahead, yep.
Is it Eric Kratz?
It's not.
Are you kidding me?
It is not Eric Kratz.
They has the same path.
No, it's not Eric Kratz. This is, so we'll buzz through this one pretty quickly. This is Russell Martin.
Oh, man.
He was a catcher for the Dodgers in the 2008 and 2009 NLCS against the Phillies. Played with Pittsburgh briefly, played with the Yankees, but signed that big deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. Most well-known, obviously.
Oh, it was the Dodgers.
Dodgers.
Thought Red Sox.
No, it was the Dodgers.
That's what got me.
Yeah, Dodgers. The 2008 and 2009 NLCS.
All right.
All right. So that one down. Let's get to player number 2 here that we've not gotten to see yet. So this is the first time that everybody's getting a chance to see player number 2 on the board, which I think might be the easiest one because of a connection. I'll be honest with you. I had no idea this guy played for 17 years, but he is a 17-year vet who played for 6 different teams. And in fact, in 2011, was a starting pitcher, won 21 games in 2011. This guy ended up signing a 5-year deal with the Kansas City Royals in 2016. And the last hint that I will give you is that this player later down the line eventually was acquired by the Phillies at the trade deadline, but was not a starter when they acquired him.
Okay. 17-year vet, played for 6 teams. What are the 6 teams?
The 6 teams, I would say, obviously Phillies is one of them.
Yeah.
I would say best known as a Diamondback, but spent the most time in his career pretty split. 5 years in Arizona, 5 years in Kansas City, 3 in San Diego, 3 in New York, 2 in Texas, and then spent half a season with the Phillies. Was acquired at the trade deadline 1 year, spent about half a year with the Phillies.
121 games.
21-game winner in 2011. Finished 4th that year in Cy Young. Yeah, he was 21-4 that year with a 2.88 ERA. Heck of a season.
Oh, man.
Got moved to the bullpen in 2019. Only made one start from 2019 to the end of his career.
As a Philly.
Well, no, not as a Philly, but pitched out of the Phillies bullpen. But was moved to the bullpen with Kansas City.
In 2019. Oh, man.
Yep, the answer has been gotten in the chat.
Is it? You want to say it?
Yeah, Robert's got it right. It's Ian Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ian Kennedy was acquired in the 2021 trade deadline by the Phils. He was acquired with Hans Kraus and Kyle Gibson. Gibson obviously went on to be the starter. Yep. Was traded for Kevin Gowdy, Spencer Howard, and Josh Gessner, who, I'll be honest, I don't know who the hell Josh Gessner is. Kevin Gowdy was a former second-round pick, and then Spencer Howard was obviously the big-name prospect at the time. But yes, Ian Kennedy, great pull, Robert. Yeah, Let's get to player number 3 here before we wrap up today's show. Player number 3 is an 11-year vet. I think this silhouette, if you remember what this guy looks like, it does give it away a little bit. 11-year vet, played just for 2 teams, was a starter who went 4 straight seasons with 200 innings pitched or more, signed a big 5-year deal with the Angels in 2012. And I think that thing that's hanging off of his neck there, he was a big, he wore the Fightins. You remember the Fightin necklaces?
Yeah, they had like the metal in it.
The interweaving, like braided looking ones.
Yeah.
He was a big Fightins necklace guy. And I'll let you mull this one over a little bit while we do this. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us on our streaming platforms, Roku, Samsung, Xfinity. If you're watching on any of our streaming platforms, head on over to allphly.com to catch the rest of the show. It is officially time for overtime.
Pull that up here.
There you go. Yeah, so this guy, just 2 teams, spent his entire career in the American League West.
Waiting to see if Chad can get it.
Pitched for over 1,400 innings in his career over 11 seasons, which means he averaged 153 a year. And like I said, he went 4 straight years with 200 innings pitched.
Angels.
Spent the last 4 years with the Angels.
Come on, chat. What you got?
7 seasons with the Texas Rangers.
Come on, chat.
2-time All-Star. Finished 6th in Cy Young voting in 2011.
Come on, chat. Let's see what you got.
Twice led the American League in walks allowed. But he went 204, 223. Nah, Lincecum was with the Giants, NL West.
He didn't go to the... Yeah,
he did go to the Angels.
He did?
It is not Jared Weaver. It's a good guess, but not Jared Weaver. Yeah, Lincecum pitched with the Angels at the end of his career. Nope. Yeah, multiple people guessing Jared Weaver. It is like not. Weaver was right-handed. This guy was a lefty. This is definitely not as tall as Weaver either. This guy, try to give you some more hints. Really doesn't have a whole lot because he only pitched for the 2 teams. I believe has a win in the World Series with the Texas Rangers. I'll try to go back and find it. But I do believe has a win in the what did they lose the World Series in? 2011? Yeah, I want to say the 2011 World Series. That they lost to the Cardinals. Not Mark Mulder.
Pitcher.
Oh, I'm sorry. He started 2 games, went with a 2.92 ERA, but was 0-1. I apologize. Robert's got it. I know he's throwing names against the wall, but yes, Wilson is the right last name. Now come up with his first name and you've got it. All right. Ready? Do you remember C.J. Wilson?
I gotta look up.
C.J. Wilson spent 11 years in the big leagues, 7 with Texas and 4 with the Angels at the end of his career.
Oh, wow.
Was really quite good for a while. But yeah, that's our final Remember Me of the day.
Wow.
Great guess by, or great poll, I should say, by Robert. Good work by you all. It's good team effort. And that is our Remember Me segment of the day. Ray Schumacher says, I'm just going to start guessing generic names. Smith. K-Red says, Jeff. No, mine. What? You cannot just start guessing generic names. Don't start guessing Great American Ballpark again. We're not doing that again.
This is actually interesting because I just looked this up because I was trying to figure it out on Google here.
Yeah.
And I put in 5-year deal with Angels 2012, came from Rangers. There's another player
that did the same thing?
that did that.
It's Josh Hamilton, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Outfielder.
Josh Hamilton was nasty for
Signed
a while.
Signed a 5-year deal with the Angels after playing with the Rangers.
The Angels at one point had Hamilton, Pujols, Morales, somebody else that had some pop. They had some serious pop in their lineup. Now, they were hurt all the time.
When did Pujols go to... Oh, man.
Pujols was with the Angels for probably...
My brain, it feels broken right
probably,
now.
I'd say maybe 6 years. Oh, gosh, he was with the Angels for 10. I didn't realize it was that long. I mean, I know there was a lot of downturn towards the end. He was, hitting 240. But I did not remember him being a 10-year Angel.
I don't remember him being a 10-year Angel.
Yeah, so they win the World Series in 11. He signs with the Angels in 12. He was with the Angels until midway through 2021.
Wow.
I did not realize it was that long. And then he was back with then he went to the Dodgers for the rest of 21. And then he signed that contract in 22 with the Cardinals where...
Just to retire.
I mean, may or may not have been juicing. I don't know. But yes, it was his retirement tour. He hit 24 home runs that year, which ended up pushing him over 700. But yeah, right, Provolone John, right. Amazing how bad they were considering how much talent that they had. Trout came along later. They had a lot of talent on those Angels teams. And I think 2007, obviously prior to the that generation of run, the 2011, 12, and all that, the 2007 Angels were nasty. And they got eliminated in the ALDS, I think. That was a really good team. But they ended up losing in the DS. All right, that's going to wrap up today's show. Big thanks to everybody who was in the chat today. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. A big thank you to Jim Salisbury for joining us for a pretty extensive off-season conversation. And, of course, big thank you to Andrew Frazier for co-hosting and producing today's show. We'll be back on Monday afternoon at noon on the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Stick around here on PHLY all day as the PHLY Eagle Show is coming up in about an hour's time. They're here at 2. And then, of course, the Sixers pregame show at 6:30, and then they will wrap up the post-game show 10 minutes after the final whistle for the Sixers game tonight. Big thanks again to Andrew Frazier and to Jim Salisbury. We'll be back on Monday at noon for the next installment of the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Until that time, have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the weather. If you like the snow, enjoy the Eagles. Eagles-Raiders on Sunday. Please, please, please win. Please. It's Kenny Pickett and the Raiders. Please. We'll talk to you on Monday right here on the PHLY Phillies Podcast. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.